Well, let's begin on line number 4 this morning. Say good morning to the NDP candidate running in the upcoming Humber East by-election, Martin Ware. Good morning, Martin. You're on the air.
Oh, good day. Nice to talk to you and to all your listeners.
Well, welcome to the program, sir. I believe it's the first time we've had the opportunity to speak.
Well, as a matter of fact, I did have a chance to speak to Jonathan Richler the other day, and he was asking me about things and about me and so on.
Well, I know a little bit about your background, and you go ahead and fill in the open line, listeners. You're an academic.
Well, I was an academic.
You were?
I am, in what you might call semi-retirement high-activity state.
Yeah, fair enough. And you're mostly involved, and the reason your name comes up frequently is given the potential for hydraulic fracturing on the province's west coast. Is that a fair characterization,
well,
sir?
That's my concern today, yes. That's my concern. I've got lots of other concerns, but that's the concern today.
Well, go ahead and speak to it. Where do we start? Is it with the issue overall? Is it the structure and the makeup of the independent review panel?
Let me start by saying that it really starts for all of us in the Bay of Islands with the fact that there was a year ago a serious prospect of a fracking pad being constructed right across to the entrance to one of the most beautiful places in Western Newfoundland, Bottle Cove. That's where it starts. There was then a moratorium placed on fracking. And subsequent to that, one of the junior oil companies received a license to drill right next door to Littleport, which is a gorgeous little fishing port where people bring in their codfish and their crab and all that.
Right.
So that's where it begins, is that there was a proposal for fracking out there. There is on the table now a company with a license to drill there, and the moment the moratorium on fracking is lifted, all those proposals for conventional drilling will turn into fracking drilling, and evidently the company has as many as 3 projects in the immediately beautiful Lark Harbour area for fracking. So that's where the concern starts.
Well, fair enough, but I mean, there's nothing to say that anybody's plans will turn immediately to fracking if anything is given a green light, because we don't even know a couple of things. We have no idea about the recommendations of this panel. We have no idea about how the royalty regime will look or work. We have no earthly idea if there's still value given the global commodity prices, whether or not it still remains an attractive find and potential for production. So there's a lot left in limbo as opposed to quickly characterizing it as a given that we're going to be fracking, isn't it?
Okay, let's just backtrack a bit. Okay, all I can say at the moment is that the junior oil companies are determined to be able to frack. And I'll get to your other points, which are very valid, in a minute. But if there is fracking, right, the moment we open the barn door, it'll be too late, right? The moment we say yes, then we won't be able to backtrack. And the problem is that if you get fracking, and you were talking earlier on your program about major health threats and whether the government is concerned about health, you get major health threats. I don't know if you know the major health threats connected with fracking.
I've had plenty of conversations, done a significant amount of research, so I'm familiar with the vast majority of them. I think I am anyway, sir.
Air pollution and the heavy diesel machinery, benzene, nitrous oxides, producing ozone, direct leading to emphysema and probably other respiratory illnesses.
And some of those are heightened by fracking, some of those are omnipresent when we extract hydrocarbons.
Yeah, but on a fracking pad, what you have, apart from escaped gases and leaks, what you've got is a very high proportion of heavy diesel machinery, compressors, pumps, drill drivers, and idle diesel tanker trucks. You have to have 1,600 return trips with all the fluids, some of them toxins, most of it water, to the pad. They'll be idling on the pad. You get a very, very high concentration of diesel pollution. That produces nitrous oxides, which leads to ozone, which leads to emphysema. On the water pollution side, you've got toxins, 3.5 million liters of stuff being pumped down at each frac, 60% coming back up, toxins, and possibly radioactivity. And that's bad trouble for cancer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all the point I'm making is there's a health threat. We don't know for sure exactly its nature, but there is a health threat.
There's a potential health threat, there's no question about it. And the amount of stuff pumped down, 95% of that is water. We would need to know the exact concentration of any chemical, would have to be reported. The big problem there also comes with what do you do with the wastewater? There's no plan in place as of now. You're
absolutely right. You could do there are three things you can do. You can have a lined pool, you can have big tanks, you can re-inject it, or you can ship it out. Four things, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
But they don't have any answers. But I don't want to get into that now.
Okay.
What I'm saying, what I would like to say is that at the moment, the only thing that is keeping the barn door from opening is the review panel. And I want to have a word or two about that review panel.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. The review panel appointed by the current government, it has neither credibility nor impartiality, right? It has no credibility because, unlike the Nova Scotia review panel, the members were not nominated by the general public. Sure, you need to have experts on that panel, but the members have to be nominated by the general public. The people who are going to be affected by this development have to have the right to have a say in what experts are going to sit on that panel.
Two questions on that front, sir. What does the general public know about who are the appropriate experts, number one? And are you immediately with, I think it's pretty unfair, to be honest with you, to say that these people don't have the justified credibility to be on the panel because they weren't nominated. So two questions. How can you condemn the members of this panel just as simple as you did? And who do the general public know to nominate?
Okay.
What will they know about that?
In answer to that, believe me, I do not condemn members of the five members on the panel. They're honorable people. They honorably believe things. In most cases, they have, in fact, in three of the five members are publicly on record as saying that fracking with proper regulation should go ahead. The chair of the panel is on the board of directors of Secor, whose prime function is to provide research and advice to major oil corporations. So four of the members of the panel are what you might call in the oil lobby camp.
Completely unfair. 100% unfair.
Explain why you think it's
well, for starters,
unfair.
For Dr. Gazan to be lumped in with mandate of Secor because as his role as the Vice President of Research at Memorial University, he is part of the Secor operation as an advisor and a board member, and you're implying that he's embedded with big oil, which is patently unfair.
No. I didn't say he was in bed. That's a rather crude expression.
Pardon my
what I am saying is that inevitably, he is a distinguished scientist. Don't get me wrong. These men are capable men. He's a distinguished scientist. But by virtue of the very fact that it's in Secor, there is an inevitable bias towards the people that they serve. I'm not saying there's any lack of integrity there. I'm just saying it's by virtue of his position that there's a problem. But I would like to go on to a couple of other points in answer to the point you made, if I may.
Okay, quickly, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. In terms of nomination, in Nova Scotia, the people who did the nominating were really informed people. People from the university, as in if the public could nominate here, people from Memorial University, distinguished lawyers, doctors, all those, they could do the nominating. It's not a vote of who goes on the committee. It's that people are nominated, and then there is a vetting committee, again, of high-quality people, so that you get the high-quality people onto the board, but you do it so that there is some reference to the public. It's not a democratic vote who goes on,
of course
right?
Not.
Only good people go on. But it's essential that there is that public voice to nominate, rather than a government that probably wants fracking nominating the people who maybe it thinks are sympathetic to what they want.
I understand that concept, and perception is 9/10 reality when it comes to political, and this is a political review because at the end of the day, regardless of recommendations, decisions will be made by politicians, so I can accept that point. When we come to the process of nominations from the general public, even if it is the people of the general public in the highest esteem and the most researched and educated in this particular area, it still will come down to politicians selecting exactly who they see fit to have on the panel. So No. Well, it's how it worked in Nova Scotia.
I don't buy that idea. I mean, I accept that you would there will be a certain group of people that will be nominated, and let me tell you that there are no women on the panel. Let me tell you, there are no Kalapu on the panel. The First Nations have to have somebody expert in their affairs representing them on the panel. But that apart, the other point that I wish to make is that the mandate of the panel does not explicitly, and this is a very important point, center on health. There's no direct reference for the requirement of that panel to look at health concerns. That's not in the mandate. The minister in the House yesterday said it was sort of implied, but implied is not good enough. Health is dead center. It's really important. It's right at the heart of this thing. And the health guy, the health concern, is not explicitly in our mandate. It was in the Nova Scotia mandate.
I think that's a huge misstep and a glaring oversight by the provincial government. Health would be the number one concern for the vast majority of people on the West Coast, and I would suggest across the country when it comes to the concept of fracking. We can talk about earthquakes all we want and whatever the case may be, but people's own personal health will be the driving force for their opposition to fracking if that's how they view it. And so that point is taken, and I accept that 100% because I think you're right. Had that person been represented on the panel, then I think it would have diffused a lot of the immediate negative reaction because that voice would have been present and it would have been described in the mandate. So I won't dispute that because I think that's fair comment, sir.
May I just say that I'm absolutely in agreement with you. The reason why I'm up in arms actually is that exact point. I would not be running if I had not, when I read the mandate, and I read it very carefully, seen, Jesus, excuse my language, the health thing, it's not there. It has to be front and center. But I really think that's a major point. And however Minister Daly fudges it, it's not there by. And unfortunately, I wish to quote you from the Hansard from yesterday. Derek Daly said, and I quote, in the House, "I certainly appreciate the support of the Liberal opposition in the makeup of this panel." The Liberals and the Conservatives are absolutely in agreement on this.
Well, they are. Hopefully the recommendations are as they're as pointed and as protective of society and the environment as they can be, and then we will have another level of debate, discussion as it goes forward. Because regardless of what,
but this panel can't possibly do it.
But it's not binding anyway.
To do it, and it doesn't have a public health representative on it.
But it's also, in large part, it can be considered window dressing because the ultimate decision will be made in the House of Assembly, or more specifically at the cabinet table. Recommendations are not binding; they'd be adhered to, or they won't.
The decision on this must be made by the people. It's got to be referred. In Nova Scotia and certain jurisdictions, communities have to accept before fracking goes ahead.
Well, I don't imagine that'll happen here, even if it is the appropriate measure to take. Mr. Ware, I've enjoyed the conversation a great deal, to be honest with you. We're well over time for my scheduled break.
Oh, but thank you so much for hearing me.
I look forward to another conversation prior to the by-election if you see fit.
Okay, very good. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Martin Ware, running for the NDP, Humber East.